The Korean War is often referred to as the Forgotten War, a conflict that lasted just over 3 years and left anywhere from 2.5 to 5 million dead. It is often regarded as the first major conflict after World War II, and it's completely overshadowed by both World War II and the Vietnam War. This has led the war to be underrepresented in all media, let that be TV shows, movies, or even video games. Despite this, 1C decided that Korea would be the subject for its newest combat flight sim, and it's coming soon. A lot of the combat flight simmers lament the current situation we are in and ask for more competition in the scene, for more new games to come shake things up. For months, there have been weekly updates on their progress, but the excitement levels in the community seem to be really muted. So today we talk about why is the community responding this way, and then we ask ourselves, what is our plan for when this game comes out? Will IL-2 Korea be popular, or will it go the wayside and be quickly forgotten? This video is a bit different from my usual ones. We will be asking more questions than answering them. So get your keyboard ready because I am making this video to start the discussion, to see what you think. If this is your first time here, this channel focuses on multiplayer sim gameplay. So if you're into that, please subscribe. First things first is the actual setting. In my mind, combat flight simmers sort of fall into two buckets, which is they either self-identify as World War II players or jet players. This is of course not 100% accurate, but it's generally how I have found players to self-identify in the community. Some prop enjoyers do not like jet combat, while some jet players are incapable of playing props. Jets is of course a really big catch-all label, so to clarify, when I hear jets, I think this historically has been most represented by DCS players and their general tendency to gravitate toward the most capable planes. They just seem to skew more towards modern instead of older planes. When we look at the initial working list of aircraft for Korea, one wonders how is this actually going to play out, especially in a multiplayer perspective. Are the jets going to be completely oppressive? Will flying ground attack in a prop feel awful when you are getting intercepted by jet aircraft that do 2 times your speed? I like to think that I know sim gamers quite well, and I sort of think that everyone is going to gravitate towards the most capable planes, meaning the jets. And this is going to take about a dozen aircraft and whittle them down to just 5 or less that people will actually want to fly. This is, of course, going to make it really hard on server owners to try to make scenarios interesting. Sim games are, well, sims, so it doesn't necessarily require symmetrical balance, but sim gamers and games themselves aren't really well known to be able to adapt to asymmetrical scenarios. The next thing is that there are no big bombers to play, which I think is a really big miss, and probably one of the biggest misses of the previous franchise, IL-2 Great Battles. With just a handful of single-engine ground attack aircraft that are going to be at the whim of jets, I suspect that gameplay in Korea may really just revolve around a handful of viable aircraft that will be doing the mud moving. A big miss was not allowing players to be able to play big bombers like the B-29. This could have really opened up the field of play, broadened the appeal to more players with something unique not offered in DCS. But so far, the developers are maintaining their previous stance. They are avoiding big bombers, and this has enraged quite a bit of people, so much that they are avoiding the game because they are expecting it to just be IL-2 Great Battles with even less variety, because at least in that game, they had some multi-engine bombers be playable. So now we get into the first question about Korea. Is the era going to be attractive to players or not? Is the Korean War both jets and World War II, or is it neither? It's the war that many consider the arena for history's first air-to-air combat by jet aircraft, but it had a large use of prop aircraft. On one hand, this means the game could capture both player bases, or it could be too modern for World War II enjoyers and too old for jet enjoyers, so it could be ignored by both player bases. I have a really hard time with this question, and now I surfaced it up to all of you. What do you think? When you take this question and combine it with the fact that it won't have any playable big bomber aircraft at launch, it does open up an interesting question. Is the era going to help the game's population or hinder it?
Are these Western customers?
Oh, yes, but I can... Right. Here's the plan. I'll stand there and ask them if they want...
Korea.
Before the war. Before...
Peace treaty.
Don't mention the war.
The next topic is a really spicy one, which I need to navigate carefully, but it is one that has been on the tip of a lot of tongues, and it's impossible to talk about this topic without bringing it up. This is, of course, about the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and the parent company of IL-2 Korea, 1C Game Studios, being a company that may be, air quotes, headquartered in Cyprus, but is a Russian company. This invasion of Ukraine has enraged a significant portion of the player base. I have said this several times, but I have always felt that the most important time zone for multiplayer sim gaming is the Western Europe one. And well, the Western Europeans are quite pissed about this whole Russia angle, and they have been very vocal about dropping the support for 1C and in turn, IL-2 Korea. This is a really polarizing topic, and my sense of going through many community discussions is that people fall into three buckets. There is one, the boycotters, two, the unbothered, and three, the undecided. Let's go into the arguments of each one. The boycotters see IL-2 Korea as a moral question. They are not happy about the war in Ukraine, and they point to a few things. 1C is a Russian company and is owned by Boris Nuraliyev, who is a Russian billionaire, and he was specifically listed in the Polish sanction list soon after the invasion started. Next, there was a very public PR moment when the official IL-2 Twitter account posted anti-Ukrainian messages. Community manager said something along the lines that the account was hacked, but some clever people in the community think they figured it out and suspect that the community manager was tweeting from the wrong Twitter account. This made people angry because 1C did not remove the community manager. The opposition to this say that 1C is a Russian company and they can't fire an employee for being pro-Russia regardless if they agreed or not. Second reason was that our very own Discord community went dumpster diving into the leaked IL-2 Korea files and lo and behold found a drone that resembled one that has been used in the war and a RPG-7 warhead to go along with it. This made quite a splash, and this of course made people think that the sim was being used to train drone operators for the war. This, of course, made people very angry. 1C has come out to say that the drone was related to them experimenting with another genre of a game. They mentioned that they have done this in the past and that they don't do military contracts and never have. They even point to experimentation in the past that led to things like the IL-2 Tank Crew DLC. Now, on these two public moments, I'm not taking a stance on it right now, but as I share what happened, I feel inclined to have to share the responses to be fair. You decide for yourself on where you are with these, but either way, this explains the case for why some people are boycotting. Then we get to the unbothered players who, for a mix of different reasons, are not fazed by this news and are going to buy Korea regardless. Some see this as their only chance to play a dedicated Korea-era conflict. Some generally don't seem to care about the moral question, and others seem to take delight in supporting the game and push back quite heavily on the public opposition to the game. Maybe they're just agitators, I don't know. Then we get to the undecided, who are undecided for several different reasons. More on them later. Ask yourself, where do you fit in these buckets? Does the war bother you at all when it comes to potentially buying IL-2 Korea? When I ask myself the question, I sort of take a step back and think that my opinion, or even the opinion of most players, may not matter. That's because the IL-2 community is a really small one, especially relative to DCS. The smaller size means it's much more sensitive to losses in players. What do I mean by this? Think of the server operators. In IL-2 Great Battles, there are only a handful of people who really understand IL-2's dedicated server tool and mission editor. Those tools are not easy to use, and the IL-2 devs have certainly not made it any easier. These tools being so hard to use have made the community extremely reliant on the handful of people who actually know how to use them. So what do these VIPs think? First, we have the Finns, who ran my favorite IL-2 server, Finnish Virtual Pilots. They have been one of the more vocal ones and say they will not be supporting IL-2 Korea due to the war and the lack of multiplayer support from the developers. The impact of the invasion of Ukraine has been really apparent on that community. That server went from being the undisputed top server in all of sim gaming to really contracting in size where it doesn't have population in some parts of the day. Next, we have TA, who have also decided not to support Korea due to several issues, including the war. They too also point to the lack of tools for the community as an issue. Along with that, they are saving their effort for Combat Pilot. Then we go to Combat Box, which is now the biggest server in IL-2 Great Battles, and they have not publicly stated what they will be doing. My sense is that they seem to be very on the fence on the whole thing. The only other server is Wings of Liberty, and based on the fact that they are a Russian-based community, I assume they will be switching over to Korea, but I technically have not confirmed this. Now, those are the on-the-record responses. The off-the-record responses and talking to a few other server people range all over the place. One person who has engineered a lot of the neat solutions over the years for IL-2 multiplayer scene has said he is also avoiding Korea. Another thinks that 1C needs to support the servers much further if they really expect people to switch over from Great Battles to Korea, and that they feel like their concerns are being constantly ignored. This last one I can speak to a tiny bit from my own personal experience because it's a bit ironic to me. I have always loved IL-2, but the IL-2 devs are the ones that I speak to the least. All the other games, even games I don't play regularly, I can get in touch with the devs, no problem. But in IL-2, I can't. So I can imagine that the server owner devs feel that their wishes fall on deaf ears. The point of listing this all out is to say that the majority of the key people, i.e. the server owners, seem to be avoiding Korea and or on the fence about it. That doesn't bode well. Servers are a prerequisite for multiplayer sim gameplay. And when we go back to the point about the planes in this game, we know we have a tricky situation on our hand. I have ran a server before, and I think this plane set is one that will not be an easy one to make missions for. Having more servers would certainly help make this more viable. Now we get to the second question. What do you think? Where's your head at for this game? Is this a moral question for you, or are you unfazed and will purchase the game regardless? What are your thoughts about the momentum going into this game with where the server owners are at? I have tried and failed to make this video for the last 3 months, and I have gone through about a dozen different script versions because I am one of these people in the undecided bucket. I really like IL-2. I think pound for pound, it has been consistently the best combat flight sim franchise throughout my time in simming. If I was forced to pick only one franchise to play in combat flight sims, then it would definitely be the IL-2 franchise over any other. With that said, the moral question has been one that has been weighing on me quite a bit because I am certainly not a pro-Russia person. I finally decided to pull the trigger on this video because one person in the audience approached me, a sociology student who is working on their graduate thesis and is diving into the topic of how a genre can be impacted when they have many titles linked to Russia during this war. I was open to chatting because I thought this discussion would help me collect my thoughts, and I want to leave this last section to cover over some of the things we talked about because we pulled on a bunch of different threads, and I think this may be helpful to hear as people collect their own thoughts as they give a reaction below, because this video is really to get a reaction from all of you and less about me giving my conclusion because I'm having a hard time coming up with one myself. One, I am really worried for all of us because if Korea doesn't do well, it's bad for the genre, bad for all combat flight sims. I think the IL-2 community's population is too small to be able to withstand a marginally sized boycott. I spend a lot of time on Discord, and while this is very anecdotal, it is extremely common to see people jump in and not support Korea due to the war. This has been interesting to combine with the poll the FTC community did in January. Only 52% of the community said they are interested in doing Korea events. That's not a good sign when half of one of the most active and dedicated IL-2 communities is not looking forward to Korea. We even did a poll on this channel, and people seem to be split if they plan to get the game or not. So, lack of broad server runner support and a non-trivial amount of players saying they are refusing to get the game. This isn't a soft landing pad for the game's launch. So, how is this bad for all of us? We need competition in the scene. If Korea comes out and falls flat, the immediate and biggest winner out of all this is DCS. And in my opinion, DCS acts as a major anchor on the genre. I am of the opinion that this genre is not going to really move forward until we get some new games. While DCS has some compelling things, it's never going to be the thing that I really want it to be, and I do strongly feel that we need some competitors to come in to offer some actual gameplay and scale in this niche. Now, with that said, the success of IL-2 Korea could actually be very bad for the genre. A complete contradiction of what I just said. How can that be? 1C has already stated that after Korea, they want to tackle the Pacific, which was really surprising to me and honestly a bit concerning. 1C has done a good job of not stepping on toes and has managed the swim lanes between IL-2 Close to Dover and IL-2 Great Battles to divvy up parts of World War II, so each game had its own unique area. They are capable of doing that, and I mention that because it is a bit bewildering to see them publicly announce their intentions to do the Pacific before they have even launched Korea. This is of course all happening while Combat Pilot is in its infancy. There have been some publicly traded barbs between 1C and Combat Pilot since Jason has split ways with 1C, and the announcement from 1C to go into the Pacific to me seems like they are trying to move aggressively against Combat Pilot, to kill the baby in its crib, so to speak, the baby here being Combat Pilot. This is concerning and it's not a good look. Combat Pilot, in my opinion, is the most exciting project right now in the combat flight simming space. It's the one I feel compelled to support because it's moving the genre forward. Instead of holding us back onto old engines like IL-2 or DCS, moving forward with Unreal and a new setting like the Pacific. It's a new foundation to build the future on. My perception is that 1C is coming out after it pretty aggressively, and that is concerning. Competition is good, but you need to let competitors actually become competitors. While on this subject, let me also plug Combat Pilot's Patreon because I am the #1 supporter for this game. We'll complain all the time about the state of Sims, and now is the time to actually support something that can take us forward. I'm a supporter, so I recommend you jump into it too, because this is our best chance for the future. Now, back on topic. Without even going into the war, I feel like I have laid out a compelling case for both supporting and opposing the game. Is it better for the niche for this game to succeed or for it to fall flat? What do you think? As for the war and my thoughts, I have to say that first, I am not a pro Russia person. The invasion of Ukraine is shocking. This whole thing has been really surprising to me. I never thought they would invade. And when they did, I thought it was going to be over instantly. And wow, what a surprise. The Ukrainians are still in it. So, of course, spending money on Russian products doesn't really feel good. With that said, and not to get into whataboutisms, but I do find myself thinking, where's the line in these sort of things? Because I try to be consistent in my thinking. 1C is making a game and not training tools for militaries. I think I believe that, but they do have direct ties to a sanctioned oligarch. Not ideal. DCS has a Swiss post office box, pretty convenient, but everyone knows that they rely quite heavily on Russian dev teams. They don't seem to be on any sanction list. Great, but they are definitely in the business of commercial military products. For which militaries, no one really knows. Are they over the line or not? I don't know. I get the sense that the faux pas that were committed by 1C were so blatant that for some are too big to ignore. Literally every other game in the niche has managed to navigate the PR situation around this war better than 1C, so they stick out like a sore thumb. In my chat with Russian developers across all the games, I have all found them to be very educated people that lament this war is even happening. They are not supporters of the invasion, but are Russian. So do they deserve to be guilty by association? It's a really hard question to ask, and it makes the situation, not just with Korea, but with several games, very tricky. We aren't the only ones going through this. A lot of other communities for Russian developed games are going through the same discussion. It's a really complicated topic with a lot of nuance to it. So if you want an answer or direction on how to think about IL-2 Korea when it comes to the war, I am not the right person to ask. I am not sure what my conclusion is for the war and how it relates to IL-2 Korea or the other games in the rest of the niche. And the thing is, my sense is that my personal opinion may not even matter. A non-trivial amount of people, including VIPs like server owners, have seemed to make up their mind already, and they may be enough to make this game start off on the wrong foot. Will they be enough, or will they just be a minority against a swell of hungry simmers who are ready to receive a new game? I'm not sure, and that is why I made this video. I made it to see where your head is at. Do you think this game is going to be received well? Are you in the camp of supporting it or rejecting it for any of the reasons I listed? This is a really big topic, and I certainly wanted to go into more, like how the limited scale of the IL-2 engine makes me nervous for this game, but I wanted to make this video not too long, so I hope you excuse that. If you want to support, please subscribe, as it is the best way to help the channel. And after you leave a comment below, come continue the discussion on our Discord. Thanks, and have a good one.